Welcome in, everyone, to episode 176 of the DynaCatz podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Peng, joined by PvP Steve, European Steve, right here. Hope you still have the energy for the Gigantamax and DynaCatz, because I think my guess is, well, actually, no, you probably did some, actually, if I were to guess at Gdańsk, but we'll find out. As well as technical difficulties, Tristen, and sometimes technical difficulties, Kaz. Okay, so Tristen, I don't know what it is, but I ran into the same issue last week too. So last week we had to restart. We talked about this a few minutes, but then we restarted. And I never talked about it when we re-recorded it. But Steve doesn't know this either because he wasn't here for it. But let me tell you. All right. So remember 2 weeks ago, Steve, last time you were here, your feed just cut out, right? You caught back in, and we're like, whoa, what happened, Steve? You're trying to catch up to Tristen on the technical difficulties, whatever leaderboard. Anyway. To my pleasant surprise, when I edited the podcast episode, no technical difficulties. Your footage kept recording, right? The software is magic. You know what's not magic? Whatever Tristan's doing on his end, because if you recall, there were no technical difficulties, right? Steve, when you were here with Tristan.
That's what I recall.
With Tristan. Now get this. I download the footage, right, for me to edit in my editor. I have all four of ours. And I put in Tristan's, and I could see like a preview of his footage. And he has like a face for like the first 2% of his footage. And then for the remaining 2 hours plus, it's blacked out. I was just like, dude, what? Everything's fine. I could hear him, right? But I couldn't see anything. Even when I previewed the video footage on my laptop without it in the editor, it's just blacked out. I was just like, huh. I was like, you know what? It's fine, it's fine. Like people aren't watching just to see Tristan's face. We could just keep the audio, right? That's what's important. But the problem is when I try to edit it, I
care about seeing Tristan's face.
When I try to edit it
for radio.
You have a face for podcast apparently, but you made us all have a face for podcast because when I try to edit it, all of our faces are blacked out. The entire thing was blacked out. And so the only way to not have it be blacked out is if he wasn't in the episode at all. But then that would make no sense because they're like a fourth of the episode or maybe a little bit less than that. It's just like we're just sitting there waiting for him to talk and we don't even know what he's saying, right? So I was like, man, I might just have to do I was like, I can't even do just audio for Tristan on this one. So I had to throw it into a third party like converting software and convert it into from an MOV file to an MP4 file, and this is 2+ hours of footage. So it was converting for a hot second. I have a new computer, so I bought it this year, right? And it was converting for a hot second, and and it worked, right? It worked when I re-imported. And I was telling Tristen Kaz this last week before we had to restart the recording because of some small technical difficulties, of course.
That weren't my fault.
And I was like, Tristan, like, I don't know if I can keep doing this, man. We'll see. And then last week. Same deal. That it converted. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
It was so fine before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because we actually it's totally fine when we're recording too, and it's not like your file's a different type of file than ours.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's like somehow so corrupted that we can't even see our own faces when I use it, it's something else.
He's infecting all of us.
Anyway,
it
might be
demonic possession is happening.
It might be pretty important though to see Tristan's face for future episodes because based on how this GB outlet goes, we might need to see some cosplay.
I don't know
these two. I'm pointing to Kaz and Tristan.
Yeah,
I'm just pointing
for
to
me, I'm pointing to Steve mostly and Kaz a little bit.
What?
Look, as long as I'm not pointing at me, y'all can do whatever. If Steve wants to hop in and dress up, don't let me stop him. If you want to be a Whalmer every week, that'd be kind of wild.
We'll see. I mean,
actually, do they have Whalmer costumes?
We will see.
I've seen sumo wrestler costumes for Halloween, and they just like blow it up with air, so it's like super big. Dude, they should do that for Whalmer. That'd be amazing.
I tell you what, Steve. A couple years ago, my friend dressed up as Ghastly for Halloween, and she made herself a giant paper mache sphere that she was wearing. I'll repurpose that for you to be Whalmer.
Oh, heck yeah, dude. Just repaint that thing. I can't express how down I would be. Like, quite frankly, if that was easily achievable to get to me, then like I would tank my ELO intentionally.
It doesn't weigh very much. How expensive could it be to ship? It's just paper.
I don't think it's the weight that's the problem. I think it's the amount of space that's taken up in that airplane hole.
Look, I've seen a peacock on a plane before in a video.
And a video.
Like with the passengers?
Yeah. So you know how some people have like
an emotional support peacock.
Right?
No, wait.
Like usually it's a cat. Sometimes it's a dog. Once in a while it's like a rabbit. I've seen pigs before, which is like pretty wild because they like couldn't really even control themselves and causing a mess. This is like in college dorms. I used to work in university, so I know about a lot of these.
Wait, emotional support pig? That's a new one for me.
Yeah, I know it caused havoc. There's also a flying squirrel once at the old university I used to work at, and that was like hard. And the roommate was just be like super annoyed because the flying squirrel like flying around the apartment too. And, like,
when I was
anyway, I have I could like write like trilogy novels plus from my.
Well, I was gonna ask. There's also that photo that goes around every once in a while. I don't know how old or how accurate this is, but I see the post every once in a while of like it's like a picture of a flight where like some dignitary from a Middle Eastern country has like booked out this plane and it has all of its falcons on it. And they're all like hooded and they're just on the seats. Like it's just a plane full of falcons.
Kaz is probably like Googling that plane
I would give
daily.
anything.
She Googles that plane daily. How do I get on this plane? Where is it now?
Look, I just posted in our. I just posted it in our group chat. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, I'll post it in the episode as well too. But
no shot.
Amazing.
It's a comfort animal peacock. I don't know how you roll
that one.
I don't know how you even get the refreshment cart through.
Yeah, true.
Like, imagine you sitting next to because we're sitting in the aisle, right? I mean, obviously. Imagine sitting next to a person like, "Hey, refreshment cart comes. Hey, can you just hold the feathers real quick a little bit? The tail. I got.
You just pick it up and have it stand on the tray table.
No, there's pictures of this peacock in the airport too. It's kind of nuts. Like it's actually
we've also
wild.
Found the photo I was talking about with the falcons, and he put it in our chat.
Yeah.
Like,
that's like different, right? Because that's like reserved for them.
Amazing.
I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Like, this is. Yeah, they're also like a falcon is much more reasonable, because they're smaller, right? A peacock. That thing better not try to spread his wings to try to impress a mate or something, because that's
as the resident like bird person here, I will also say that peacocks are like notoriously temperamental. So like, how is it an emotional support?
And the wings are the feathers are so big too. Like imagine just sleeping, right? Like 2 hours. Like
why not a female peacock? They don't have those.
You just wake up to like a feather in your face. Like what the heck? Like
well, Caleb, unless you're dressed up as a peacock.
I'm wearing my glasses on the plane if there's a peacock near me, just in case. Like I'm not going to have safety goggles with me all the time, but I'll wear my glasses.
This is what you have nightmares about now.
I don't know. Anyway, I don't know how we got there.
The battle birds.
Oh, the Wilmer. Okay, yeah. Anyway, technical difficulties, Tristan. Anyway, so that's that. Let's get into this episode because we got some things to do. I actually have to dip at a certain point in time, so I'm just gonna like blank out my face and stuff, but it's intentional. I have a meeting, but I trust my fellow cohorts on carrying this through. So
yeah, why should
do it? Yeah.
You trust that face of Steve's got over there?
Yeah. Hopefully, if there's a technical difficulty though, then that's where it gets weird because usually I'm the one that has to restart the recording. But I'll try to keep an eye out because I have a meeting. But
that's true. You're usually the one that like notices first, like, oh, hey, something is weird. None of us will notice, and we'll just...
Well, unless like Tristan just like unplugs the computer, he just like crashes out. That's a whole different story. Anyway, let's get into the events this week. We're not gonna have too much graphics for it because they're just recapping some stuff because we already talked about what's already upcoming, but we had Gigantamax Gengar this past weekend. How many of y'all do? I did 2. What about you all? 0.
I did not.
0. What about you? You got to do at least 3, right, Steve? Like you're at a regional. There's had to be Gigantamax Gengar.
There
was actually 10.
There were Gigantamax Gengar around. I did 0.
You're the 0.
You're the DynaCatz.
You see how I'm like concerned? Because also there was this Go Battle weekend, and okay, I know you didn't do like maybe a ton of Go Battle League, but like I need you to do something because I'm real concerned, Steve. I'm real concerned.
Okay, look on the Dynamax front. They were just in really bad, like inconvenient locations. Like there was nothing at the venue. There was nothing like even really near the venue.
Oh, so there was
yeah.
okay. I was wondering if there's one in the venue. Okay, if there's
Nah.
one. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. If there was one in the venue, it would have been really convenient, and I would like to sort of see that happen in the future. Like, I think it was not necessarily an oversight, but not something that was thought about. But I feel like in the future, like obviously when there's like raid events and whatnot, like they do, put new gyms in the venue. I think that it's probably well worthwhile putting one DynaCatz spot in there as well. But
honestly, I'm surprised that there wasn't at least one. Since they create gyms like for this, why would they not just like create some power spots?
Yeah. I just kind of assumed that it wasn't really thought of. But maybe there was some other coding hurdle. Who knows?
I don't know how the DynaCatz power spots will work either. Like maybe they have a system set up for like stops and gyms, and it's not set up the same way for power spots. Like I don't know. Like maybe it's more complicated or something. I don't really know.
Could be, but yeah, hopefully something they can sort of sort out in the future, especially because there's going to be more of these events happening with. every Pokemon in the game is eventually going to get a Dynamax, right? So, plenty more events to come.
Tristan, did you do any?
No.
He's at 0.
Oh, yeah, Caleb, our only DynaCatz expert here.
I'm a Gigantamax Dynamax content creator.
Steve, did you hear the last episode how many things Caleb was like, I didn't know, and I'm like, Steve told this before.
Yeah. But look at me now, right? From noob to expert,
He finally
student to educator.
It's that picture of like the Teenage Mutant
from
Ninja
infant
Turtles,
to Einstein.
And it's like we're all leading Caleb, and then at the end, Caleb's leading us.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's like the old Ninja Turtles meme, right?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
But it's just one of me, three old rats. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay.
Now we're the DynaRats podcast.
Yeah. Watch out for the next Battle Frontier team that's going to steal our name. Dynamice.
The DynaRats. I would not be surprised if it's got a nice ring to it.
DynaRats. I don't know. Give Me Your Arms is still the best name I've seen in a while. There's some dude that had Give Me Your Arms as his username. I forgot.
I know, but it's so deeply weird.
Anyway, from my experience, it was easier. It still wasn't easy though. I think if you hop in with a bunch of level 20s, level 30s or whatever that don't have stuff powered up, it was still I still couldn't do it with like 10 people or something, But I think if you but if you had stuff power up or you have stuff, people that know generally what to do without spending dust, but evolving things, like I said last episode, you could probably do it with 15 to 20, I would say at a minimum. But I saw on X too, someone was doing it with 4. So, okay, here's my biggest feedback though with it. You know how we said that you could start them on the Thursday and it ends on Sunday, so it's 2 extra days, right? It was not worth it, I think. Obviously, for some communities that have the people, that's fine. But it was too hard to coordinate people on the Thursday and Friday, right? You're just I think they should just kept down Saturday, Sunday for something that difficult. I think if it's just straight up raids, that's a different story, right? But for something that difficult, it was just it just baited people into trying to hop in and wasting your time because there's never going to be enough people on a random Thursday afternoon doing these, right? There's barely enough on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon. But especially on a Thursday afternoon where, I'm not saying everyone works 9 to 5, but a lot of people do, or not even that, but even if you don't, people work from 5 to 9 or whatever, the evening hours is still trickier, right? So
I know I did look on Campfire to see if there were planned events, and there were basically only one on each weekend day for 2 kind of different areas near me. And it's kind of seems hard to coordinate with people even when there is, dedicated time on a weekend. So I think the Gigantamax thing, honestly, having maybe a more limited special event featuring it would kind of prompt more people to get together and do them.
Yeah, that's
having them be all day, all over the place is a little frustrating when that you have to plan for a big group.
Yeah.
And I will say, I did see that apparently the Thursday, Friday ones worked differently than the Saturday, Sunday ones. I think the Thursday, Friday ones were like one raid per power spot, like per day. And then Saturday, Sunday, they went to the one every hour sort of deal, turning over. So, like, that's, again, I didn't do it. I just saw some other communities talking about doing it, and it was like
weird.
Thursday, Friday, it wasn't set up the same way. So it was like, because on the weekends, it's like you could probably just do like a small loop and like hit a handful. Like if you're trying to do like several, and then wait for them to refresh at the hour and do them again. But apparently Thursday, Friday, it was like once you did it, that was like it for the day at that spot, and then you had to go elsewhere. So it does seem like they were trying to push it towards Saturday, Sunday as the days to do it. I will say again, I didn't do it, but I heard the biggest thing that people liked about it was that they changed the rewards and they were giving like 25,000 Stardust for beating it. Mm-hmm. And I think if you use the extra coins, that would double the 50,000. So people were saying that like they would just pop on a star piece, like pay the extra coins for the extra rewards, and just grind out a bunch of Stardust from those. So like at least there was some sort of other reward that made it worth it. Versus like I know we were saying in the past, like
the reward did seem better. Actually, let me see if I still have my footage from the raids. I might not, but I could also just check out my YouTube video
because I know we were saying like before, like what's the point of doing these? Like it's a closed loop system and the rewards aren't very good. So like maybe the rewards are good enough to like be a little more worth doing it. Like
no, okay, I do have it actually. Let me see real quick what the rewards are.
I mean, in the short term, part of the idea is that it is still sort of closed loop in that you get the dust to invest in the Gigantamax.
So I'll show it briefly to you all, but it's hard to read, so I'll just read it off for you. But you get 25,000 dust, 25,000 XP. I got 1 rare candy XL, 30 Ghastly candy, 1 candy XL for Ghastly, and then the balls to catch. And then if you upgrade, for 200 coins, you get another 2,500 dust, 25,000 dust, 25,000 XP, another rare candy XL, and this is and more.
Okay. I'm assuming it's
and more. There's something else.
I assume it's just double in all items.
It
probably like doubled it probably doubled the balls and doubled the regular Ghastly candy and whatever. I'm assuming it just doubled everything you got initially. Is my guess.
I would assume, So
like, I saw someone say that on Twitter. They tested it, but it's a little dodge. Like I don't like the way that they've worded it in that just saying end more. It does sound like I'll get some other random rewards, I guess. But it's just like I've got an extra 10 balls to catch this Pokemon. It's a little disingenuous in my mind, but whatever. Yeah. Not the end.
Well, I don't know. The Gigantamax, like the first weekend when they did the Kanto evolved starters, it was hard to catch them, so maybe those other balls were worth.
I think they did. Well, I did hear they made the catch rate better too.
Well, they said they were going to do that. General. I know that in Zoe's video, she said didn't notice a difference.
I didn't notice a difference. It's still kind of a pain to catch, but none have ever run on me. But I've seen it run on plenty of people. Like it wasn't like first ball or second ball or anything like that. I was hitting excellence. But yeah, I mean, there's that. It is what it is. Oh, something to note is I noticed it myself, but if the moveset changes, it could change from every time you try it.
Oh,
so
really?
Let's say like I remember once I got which is weird, right? Because raids aren't like that, but these are max battles. So when I hopped in, I was like, it was a sludge bomb, right? It was like one-shotting my Greedent. So I was like, all right, next time I'm bringing a Metagross and a Venusaur, right? See what happens now. And then throw Shadow Ball the second time. I was like, what the heck? The strategy I started doing is I brought a little bit of everything. I brought Greedent,
Metagross,
and like a Gengar.
I think
it does have 2 moves.
I think I read somewhere it can throw multiple moves.
Yes.
No, it threw the same move the entire time.
Okay, interesting.
No, I've definitely noticed in like some of the tier 3s and even tier 1s that I do that they do, if the Pokemon does have multiple move options. Like when I did a Phalanx, it was throwing like bug moves and like fighting moves.
For
Yeah, me too.
Gigantamax, I don't think that's the case because I've done like about 6 or 7 of them, and they always do the same move.
Yeah, maybe with Gigantamax it's different since like they have a special move, right? Like
no, they're just throwing the regular move though. They're not throwing the max or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just throwing like I got hit with a Shadow Punch, Sludge Bomb.
Look at you, Caleb, educating us DynaCatz.
See,
Okay, guys,
y'all making fun of me. Now look at where it is. You know.
But Caleb, did you know that the attack is based on the fast attack?
See, I know that. Right, I know the names of a lot of them now too, like Max Quake.
Ooh, look at this guy.
Who
Something
is
darkness.
this man?
For the fight, I don't know. Okay, Max
That's
Quake
very
would end,
impressive,
but still.
Caleb.
Mindstorm, I think. Max Mindstorm was the move for Metagross.
I want to know if
Thank you. A little underdressed for this award ceremony, but I'll take the award.
You win the Dynamax Podcaster of the Year award.
Yeah.
Niantic,
make you a little trophy.
please. You heard.
Give him
All I
the
asked
badge.
is all I asked is give me a Hundo Dynamax Squirtle or a Gigantamax Squirtle. That's all I need.
Just any hundo from Dynamax,
Wait,
please.
Can Dynamax and Gigantamax Pokemon Mega Evolve too?
I think so, but they're like it's separate. But
yeah. Well, I'm just curious. Like, if I do get like a Hundo one, I could evolve it.
Just
right?
invest in one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Let me see.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, you can Mega Evolve it. Okay.
Yeah, the button's up there.
Okay, cool.
Good. All right. Well, that's good to know. Anyway, that was that. I don't think we have another Gigantamax event for like anytime soon, at least, based on what I've seen.
Well, we do have some save the dates that Niantic sent to us already.
What a great transition.
There is a Max Battle Day listed in there, Sunday, December 8th, but we don't know what it will be yet.
Okay, so we won't have anything for this month, I guess, right?
No.
Well, besides during the Wild event, Go Wild event, Area event,
we do
right?
have
we have I think Gigantamax Toxtricity during that.
Toxtricity, yeah, both forms.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Greedent gonna be real good for that one. Max Quake, yo. Max Quake.
I'm telling you, no, you gotta get those Excadrills.
That's true. We do have.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
We do have Drillbur coming to Max Battles next Monday.
That'll probably be like one of the easier ones, at least based on typing, because like the Excadrill will hit it for double super effective with ground moves, while double resisting electric moves and triple resisting poison moves. So like, at least on paper, that one should be easier than some of the ones we've had so far.
Yeah,
definitely looks that way.
Assuming you get those Excadrills. If you're using Greedents, you might have a harder time.
Yeah, maybe. But some of the other save the dates are Saturday, December 7th, listed as a research day. Sunday, December 8th, Max Battle Day. Saturday, December 14th, Raid Day. Yeah, that's a very busy weekend. I wonder what event they'll tie in with that, because I'm sure it's coming. December 14th, a Raid Day. Sunday, December 29th is a Hatch Day. Ugh, eggs.
And you just had to hatch this on that one day. Get to walking before New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Walk off those Christmas calories.
New Year's resolution early.
And then Saturday, January 11th is another raid day, and then Sunday, January 19th, a shadow raid day, and then all of next season. And then Saturday, February 1st is a Max Battle Day, and Saturday, February 15th is a raid day.
The day after Valentine's Day.
It's my birthday.
Previous
Wow.
Okay.
And then they also gave the community days too. So December 21st and 22nd is like the end of season 1. And then we have January 5th, and then a classic community day on January 25th, and then a community day on February 9th. But yeah, they really packed that December in there. That's like, there's 2 weekends where it's Saturday and Sunday, and then 2 other single day events as well. Like, that December is pretty packed.
And the double day community day.
Yeah. It's going to be a very busy month. Because
why
not?
There's 6 weekend days in December with some sort of event going on.
Yeah. So busy.
Mark your calendars. I'm sure we'll bring it up again though beforehand. So if you don't feel like it, that's all good. We have some brief community ambassador program updates. I'll let you all take over this one. But we talked about the special check-in rewards last week, but there are also some other updates.
Yeah, Tristen, I think you're the most familiar with this.
Yeah, so I don't know all the details because they only gave us like a little bit of info, and like we'll probably hear more in the coming days because I think that like today might be like the first day that this is like active. But if you check in for like an official community ambassador meetup, so not just any meetup on Campfire, but like the ones from like actual community ambassadors, like there's gonna be some sort of additional in-game perks. So there's gonna be I guess bonuses that last for 8 hours after check-in, and so there's gonna be like a branching timed research, and you get to choose one option. So there's a catch option which gives you 1 hour lures, a social option which gives you one. Oh wait, maybe not. Maybe that's not 1 hour lures. I think it just gives you a lure. Social gives you an incense, battle gives you a charge TM, and a raid option that gives you 2 daily free passes. So like 1 extra pass, I guess. And then I think there's going to obviously be other rewards within the research. And it's probably just having you do different things like, I don't know, catch certain number of Pokemon, spin stops, do raids, whatever it might be. We don't know like the actual research, but like you'll be able to get that research. Like every event you go to that you check in for a community ambassador one, so like you can get those at
so it's not like a one and done sort of thing. Every time you check in, you'll get new research.
Go to a thing. So it's like if you go to Spotlight Hour, or if you go to Max Out Monday, you can get one on Monday, and then one on Tuesday for Spotlight Hour, and one on Wednesday for Raid Hour, and then one on like every weekend day in December for all the other events going on.
Oh my gosh.
And then there's also some other bonuses. Apparently there's an in-game medal. There's some party play bonuses, which are interesting. A reduced hatch distance, which is really nice if you're in a party. Some exclusive party challenges, apparently. And I think there's an increased chance to encounter Tandemos from the party play rewards. And then there's also some special field researches. Apparently you get an extra task from a Pokestop, so it's like not the regular one, but you can get an extra one too, but I don't think it overrides it. And it says a chance to encounter costume Pokemon. So I guess they're bringing back a way to encounter some of the previous costume Pokemon we've had for anyone who might be hunting like a Hundo or a Shiny or something. So, you know, Caleb, maybe you can get a costume Squirtle as a Hundo, you know? Gotta do this.
But it won't be able to Dynamax.
I don't care what kind of, I don't care if it's a regular Squirtle or what. I'll take it. Okay, but that's really cool though. I'm glad that look, for what it's worth too, I think a lot of people were pretty negative about Campfire when it first dropped, but I think they've definitely made a lot out of it. I actually used it for the Gigantamax Gengar this past weekend because my Lohuki ambassador shares her location on Campfire when she's like going to these different max battles or raid hour or whatever or community day. So I like found her location and I just like followed them. Like that's how I did the 2 Gengar because I couldn't do it with like the random people just sitting around gyms.
Right.
But she was walking around with like a whole horde of like 40 plus people. It was kind of nuts.
Yeah. And I like that they're giving like extra incentives to go to the additional like the like official community ambassador meetups, but also that the incentives are like in-game bonuses and stuff, but also that the incentives aren't like so good or OP that it sucks for anyone who doesn't have a community ambassador by them. I think it's a very good balance personally of like a nice perk if you have it and are able to make it there, but if you can't make it or don't have a community ambassador near you, it's not the end of the world that you're missing out. So I kind of like that balance. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Definitely.
some people were negative about Campfire when it came out. I wasn't negative about it. I just kind of felt like this is just another thing when I like already have so many means of like coordinating with people, you know, it felt just a little like annoying that there were circumstances where I kind of had to rely on it. But now that they're actually sort of implementing these, you know, updates to make it a little bit more fun for you to use in your game, I think that's good for the longevity of both Pokemon Go and like Campfire. And especially now that we have all these events where we need to coordinate so many other people, it's definitely useful to have kind of like one thing that everybody that's like directly tied into the game. Because we still like when I go out for raid hours, sometimes we encounter new people and we'll tell them about Discord and they're like, yeah. But Campfire is something that's a little more accessible because there's a button for it like right in your game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I do think that Campfire was rightfully criticized at the start, especially when the whole shenanigan was like they, you know, Niantic was propping up Sylph Arena with some level of funding for a little bit. And, you know, Sylph Road, I should say, was sort of running the community ambassador program through them in some sense. And then they shut that down and hadn't actually got Campfire up to the point that it could like accomplish that yet. And so it was all a little bit messy in that. I mean, I think there was that thing like when they shut the Sylph Road stuff down, wasn't it that not everyone could even get Campfire yet? Like, wasn't it still like invite only?
Yeah, it was still like invite only. Listen, I said it was a little bit, there were a few hiccups in the beginning.
I mean, I also think a lot of people would agree that Campfire came out several years too late. I think it would have been more widely like better received if they had maybe launched it like back in like 2017 when raids came out or something, or like shortly thereafter. But like
that seems a little bit setting the bar pretty high. I mean, they were still figuring out how to make this game, you know, legit.
I know, but my point is just like the part of the reason that Campfire hasn't caught on is because at this point we are like 7 years since the launch of raids. Like a lot of people have already established their own communities separately, either on Discord or Telegram or WhatsApp or Facebook groups or Facebook Messenger or whatever other social media platform they may be using. So like while I do think that Campfire is improving and starting to get used more, like it's not having the same sort of overall usage as it could have if it was launched sooner, just because there's so many communities that are already established outside of Campfire at this point.
I mean, sure, but you know, if you can't do it today, then you know they got there eventually. In the sense that, like, you know, to spit out a Niantic talking point, they want this to be a forever game, right? And so you know, the players that came in the first few years aren't the only players they're expecting to, you know, actually play the thing. So I feel like it's a little bit more long term. And certainly in my area, Campfire was completely useless for like, I don't know, most of its existence. But it's actually sounding like at least recently that like Zoe said, she actually had some success in Campfire with like getting Gigantamax shenanigans going through, and like that wouldn't have been the case like 4 months ago in my area at the very least. But you know, I think the ball is starting to roll.
So just take Steve leaving and then it starts working.
All right, let's move on from this thing because I gotta go soon. So let's head down to Kaz's corner because I need to earn some points before I have that dip.
That's true. So listen, Halloween may be over, but we have another event coming up focusing on the harvest. So I figured I would still stick with a ghostly pumpkin that we all know and love, Gourgeist. So the trivia question is, Gourgeist have eerie voices that will curse any human that hears it. But when do they actually gather to sing?
I'm ready Googling the image. All right, wait. So say the question again. When did they?
Yes.
When do they gather to sing?
They gather to sing. I don't think the image is going to help you, Caleb, but go ahead.
No. The image is important. You never know.
Dude, Gorgeist be looking real emo the more I look at it. It's got like one eye covered with the hair over it. Like, what? I just noticed that.
You mean
Marceline
the feathers?
the vampire queen shenanigans. Don't say that.
Wait, what? I didn't hear what you said. What did you say?
No, he said it has one thing of hair over it. And I was like, do you mean the feathers?
Oh yeah. Oh, come on.
Take that back.
That's definitely not feathers.
It's not.
Dude, Gorgeist looks like he's listening to some Paramore, and it's already still to this day.
It needs like the dark streak in the middle, like a purple streak.
There's a few pictures of the hair actually moving out of the way. Okay, so the question is, where do they sing?
When?
Like what time of year?
Yes.
Is it
time of year, time of month? Like when do they gather to sing their most powerful haunted songs?
I feel like there's two obvious guesses.
I think yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is it one of those?
The one that obviously
maybe.
Can't ask that.
The odds are 50-50.
I think I'm gonna guess one of what I feel like is an obvious. Maybe it isn't that obvious. I don't know.
All right, let's just go.
I will tell you. I will give you a hint before everyone presses their final one. It is a time of month. It's a month thing, not like necessarily an annual event that you might be thinking of.
Yeah,
I need to Google something because I don't know like how to like phrase it.
To be honest, I assumed that it wasn't like I assumed that it was going to be a once a month sort of shenanigan-ish. As soon as you like clarified,
okay.
Like, oh, it could be
I know.
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right, I'm ready to go.
Okay,
you ready, Tristen?
let's do it.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, send.
See, I knew it.
Okay.
To answer your question, Steve, yes, it was obvious. It's not just you, it was obvious. I'm hoping I'm. It's not that obvious.
Yeah.
Though.
So Tristen wrote. He crossed out when they feel like it, and then wrote at the full moon.
Your gut, Tristen.
Steve also wrote at the full moon, and then Caleb wrote. And then Caleb wrote during the new moon. And Caleb is right!
No! Let's go!
It is actually the new moon that Gorgeist will gather and sing their creepy songs.
For context, that's why I Googled. I was like, I Googled opposite of a full moon because I was just like, because I didn't know what it was called, right? Yeah, what's the opposite? Like when it's completely dark. Because I'm thinking like, okay, full moon, more like werewolves and stuff. But I'm thinking, you know what's creepier than Gorgeist singing when the full moon's out? When there's no moon, it's even darker.
Yeah.
That's my thought, at least.
Way to go, Caleb. Earning yourself some points.
From the noob of max battles to the professional, from the last place in Kaz's corner to the first place. I'm feeling good. So, let's get into this GBL bet.
Well, I did want to throw out some cool trivia. I did want to throw out some cool trivia though, because pumpkins are actually native to the U.S. They're not like native to England or Europe. But there is actually a giant pumpkin festival at this town in the north of France that commemorates one of the last witch trials in Europe in 1679.
Wait, why is it a pumpkin festival then if it's commemorating
because it happens in early October, so I think Halloween has kind of still
it was during a witch trial
over. No, it's the festival happens like in the modern day. Like it started in the 90s. Oh, okay. But it commemorates one of the final witch trials from 1679.
They throw like pumpkins at them and stuff.
No, it's
I know they're definitely harsh.
It's basically
witches,
like a big.
right?
It's like a big like farm festival. Like they do like pumpkin contests. They have all the different varieties and colors and things. And they have like carving and obviously pumpkin flavored things. So I was just kind of like, it's really curious how that has like the pumpkin phenomenon sort of transitioned over to this other continent.
Wait, so Pumpkin Boo, they sing during the new moon. Is it because it's creepier during there, or is just that?
It doesn't say in the Pokedex.
Okay. That was my thought. I almost did put full moon, and part of me was like, I'm really gonna kick myself if it's a full moon because I was thinking the same thing, right? It's like,
that's why I was like, the odds are 50.
A month.
Yeah, the odds were 50-50. I honestly thought you all were gonna write full moon.
But when you said when, it wasn't clear to me like what. I didn't know. I was between like full moon and like nighttime. Yeah. You know, because I didn't know if you meant like, you know what I mean, like.
Well, that's why I
every
added
night would be wild too.
Yeah. Well, that's why I added the clarification
up.
that it happened during a time of the month, so it was like a monthly reoccurrence. All right, now we can get into our GBL bet and see if Caleb continues his winning streak.
Maybe I should just dip out now because this might be what ruins my winning ways. All right. Let's convene. I took a screenshot. I got the timestamp and everything and the day.
Yep.
But all right, let's start with Steve because he wasn't here last week. What was your ELO at? All right, for those that are tuned in for the first time or lost track of this bet, essentially it's whoever had the highest combined ELO, which team did on November the 3rd, right? This past Sunday. And
last week we actually figured out that the teams were 10 points apart. Yeah. Me and Tristen were only 10 points down from where you and Steve were combined.
And like I said, I could only go so high. But all right, Steve, what did you end at?
So I finished up at 22.15, which I think I was at 20.40 last week. So
22.15. Okay, I'll take it.
It was Wailmer climbing. I actually, Z's Wireless was running a team with Wailmer. We were running it at dinner after the regionals were all wrapped up, after he just got second place at Gdańsk. And so Wailmer Gaming was climbing for both of us. He was climbing in like the 2800s.
Dude, I know it's like TOS, but you should just gave him your phone, you know? Just don't tell us. Anyway, we know you didn't because you would probably be a little bit higher than 22.15. So.
Yeah.
All right, Tristen, what were you at? Because I think you're the second lowest last week. So we'll just go in that way.
No, Kaz should go next. I'll go last.
No, you're going last. I'm going last.
Okay,
we got to bookend it. Yeah. All right, Kaz, what were you at?
I ended at 25.89.
Oh my god. We might have lost, Steve. We might have lost. I was frantically texting Steve. I was like, you got to climb. I don't care what you're trying to figure out the time for this episode. You need to climb. All right, Tristan, where are you at?
27.78.
Oh no. All right. So for context, I did tank during Go Battle Weekend.
Okay, before you say it, by the way,
Sunday. Yeah.
You need to be at 31.53 to win this thing.
Okay. Well, anyway, I tanked, and I was like, dude, I need you to climb some, right? Because not even if I get back to 3K or something, I could only go so high, right? It's already Sunday 6 p.m. or something. Right?
I'm hearing a lot of context.
Yeah. So I was at 2,800 something, and I worked my butt off, right, to try to climb back up there. Mm-hmm. And I ended at 30.90. Not quite. Oh, yikes! All right. Well, it's fine though, because I get to make C power up something of my choosing. And, it was really good to be dependent on my mood after this. Really. Pull out your Pokedex, Steve. Right? We'll figure out the costumes later, but let's power something up here. Let's max it out.
Right.
No, Tristen and I will talk amongst ourselves. We'll decide what costumes.
Okay, you all can do that, but I'm saying for his power up. How much? You have a Mr. Rhyme?
I'm sure I've got one. I mean, once this loading bar eventually fills up, I reckon I've got a Mr. Rhyme hanging around.
He probably has 10 XLs.
I just want to know how many regular candies you have too of Mr. Rhyme.
No, you don't get any context on that front. You've got to make a gamble. For context for people that are just tuning in, Essentially, the deal was that the first person to hit veteran would get to make the last person to hit veteran or not hit veteran to max out to the best of their ability a Pokemon from the Galar Pokedex. So,
wait, all the candy. What is the context of best of your ability? Because, like,
as in, like, if I don't have enough.
Right, but
wait, I'm so confused. I'm looking at the Galar Dex. Why is Streepy and Galar, but not Dracloak and Dragapult?
What?
Oh, what?
Like, if you look at the decks, you see that? You see the order? You see Dreepy's right here? And then there's nothing underneath it. But
you haven't evolved it yet, and you probably haven't seen one, so it's just not, like, it's not registered.
It doesn't fill in.
But they usually have they usually have a number. You see, like, this one? Like,
No. Yeah, number. But they haven't filled out all the numbers for whatever reason. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's really weird. Oh, okay. Because there's numbers for the other stuff.
My point is best of your ability. Like, Steve could just buddy it and walk it for like 2 years to max.
Yeah, no. This is on the spot. I mean, that wasn't the verbiage that we used. I've just said it.
Okay, how about this though? If you have enough candies to power it up to 40, and you still have leftover candies, you convert it and try to power it up with XLs you convert from, which is like not going to be that much.
Okay.
It might not actually make much of a difference because it's only 100 regular candies for XL.
Yeah, no.
All right, you know what? I'm going to just go with it because I think it's just funny. The other ones are like too useful. Let me see you power up your Mr. Rhyme as far as you go.
Oh, it's Mr. Dot Rhyme. Mr. Dot Rhyme.
Period.
Okay. So, I mean, I've only got one that's evolved.
And you can evolve another one if you don't want to.
Yeah, I can evolve another one. Okay, I'll just evolve a new one.
No. Power up the one you have.
Then you'll have less candies.
Yeah, you have less candies. You got to power up the one you have. You can't,
here's my one
can't
little
be evolving
request.
now. Come on now.
What if he has like a hundo he wants to max out, and the one that's evolved is
shoot, I think we lost Steve. He's like frozen.
Yeah, he is frozen. Dude,
now. He's going for the technical difficulties so that he's evolving and pretending he didn't hear us.
This request broke his whole setup.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, guys, I accidentally transferred all my Mr. Rhymes.
He's actually disconnected. What's going on?
Oh, I don't know.
He just couldn't take losing the bet and having to max out a Mr. Rhymes, so he just pieced out.
Yeah, he wrote technical freeze.
Tactical
freeze. Technical.
Yeah.
Technical. He knows.
Strategic is what it was. Yeah.
I added a point to the all-time bets, so it's now 1 to Steve, 2 to me, 1 to Kaz, 1 to Tristen. 2 to me because I won the veteran bet. But
yeah.
Oh, disappointing. All right, you all pick out some costumes or something, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have a discussion later about it.
The sooner the better, because it's for the rest of the season, right? So you gotta make the most out of it.
True.
Yeah,
first I was gonna say we should see what the listeners have for ideas, but that might be
yeah. Give it to the side.
No. We'll check the comments on this one, next week. And see, and we'll come up with our own stuff in the meantime, and then decide if someone has submitted something better.
Steve,
you will know. You will know for sure next week what costume.
That's the thing that kills me. I was like, I know it could be higher, and I knew both of you were definitely like too low, right? Like I knew both of you were like not in your like proper elo ranges. Like I know Tristen was probably just slacking off and not doing anything. And then
I was actually GBLing quite a bit. I just couldn't get any traction Halloween. Like every time I would climb, I would just drop right after.
What did you all end up climbing with, out of curiosity? It was greatly, I assume, right? And
I climbed with Holly's team. It was really funky, but it worked. It was a Pangoro lead with Ariados and Drifblim in the back.
What do you do for like a air / Mandibuzz or a Talonflame?
Don't see them.
Oh, because I'm running both in my team, which is why I asked.
Hey, we're back.
Okay, let me see that Mr. Rhyme. Let's see this.
Okay.
Yeah, you heard us, right? Don't evolve anything new one. Just use the only one.
Yeah. I did realize that bit. Although I will say that it doesn't really affect too much because that's like half an XL candy.
Well, I don't know if you have enough candy to max it out to level 40, right? So that's why I say that.
Wait, so how many XL candies do you have?
Okay, so candies. Mr. Rhyme. Again, I've only got the one, and we have 453 regular candy and 43 XL candy.
That's better than what we. Yeah. That might be better than Tristen too.
I think so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we talked about Mr. Rhyme last week too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
I'll see it. You don't have to double move it.
Yeah, no. We're not double moving it. I mean, that'll just save less power-ups. So to get to level 40, we're going to get all the way up to 2743.
Okay.
And then we can go 1, 2, 3, 4. We can go 4 power-ups to 2813.
Okay.
All right, can we convert any candies?
Hey, we already Master League premiered this week, so this is quite eligible. I guarantee you beat a Dragonite, right? Right?
Well, let's see if we have any ELO bets going on for the next season, right? But
right now, no. You can do whatever you want now. Hey, there we go.
But do we have
Look at him go.
How many XLs for the next power up?
I can't do it. I need 9 more XLs.
Wait.
That's fine.
And you don't wait. Oh, you have less than 900 candies. That's right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. By
we name it something collectively.
Okay.
I
sure.
can't think of anything. I'm blanking. I was gonna think of Mr. something, but I don't know what. Mr. Mr. Slacker, I think is appropriate. Slacking on the ELO bet, slacking on the veteran bet.
Listen, let's name it after the reason that you were probably slacking, Mr. Gdańsk.
We can do that too. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, he is Mr. Gdańsk King.
Hey, you know what? I think Mr. Gdańsk is more like Tauntaun, but Tauntaun might actually run that in a tournament one day, so who knows? It really might be fun.
Yeah. Watch out, EUIC, I guess.
All right. Well, that's the bet. Well, I was just while you're gone for a second, Steve, we were talking about how they're gonna have to decide on costume soon because we had to wear it till the end of the season, but the season's almost over. Right? So,
yeah. I mean, I will say, wait, was that the deal? Was it till the end of the season?
Yeah.
Because the one downside is obviously I'm gonna be overseas for a little while, so.
Well, whatever the costume is, maybe he could pick it up in a store or somewhere.
You know what? You can bring it to him at LAIC.
He has to recreate it. Yeah, he has to. Yeah, you have to wear it at LAIC. That's the trade.
Hey, that wasn't the bet. That was not the bet.
That's like an Anacor Missy level kind of bet, and
listen,
I would have definitely just said no to the bet. Not even tried hard. I would have said no.
As long as we see the two of you wearing it together in at least one episode, will be good.
Yeah. I'm down. It's just
don't stress. If you need me to just be a makeshift Meowth, I could get some cat ears. No worries.
So what we're gonna do is me and Tristen will
Giovanni too. I could just have a cat.
No, absolutely not. It's gonna be something way funnier than that.
Wait, what about Jesse and James?
Who gets who?
I think I should be able to pick because
no,
I tried my hardest. Okay, I don't think you understand. I can only go so high on the
what I said was me and Tristen will discuss it and we'll see if anyone in the comments when we record next week has any cool suggestions that top ours, but we'll tell you for sure next week.
We'll keep thinking.
Comments that I don't like, I might just delete it ASAP before they see it. So
you know what? Just DM me or Kaz too if your comment goes missing.
Yeah, listen, you know where to find us on Twitter.
Or just reply to the tweet about the episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, I gotta dip, but I will leave you all to it. So we're gonna start with Professor Tristen, and we'll cover the rest of the episode. If I could ask one of you three to just write a timestamp for each of the sections, just so I have a general idea when I'm editing. But
on it.
Have a good one, y'all. All right.
Later.
See you, Caleb.
Man, that guy really should have carried harder in that ELO bet, right, guys?
Yeah.
Hey, I can still hear you the way, okay? Look, I didn't even take my headphones out. All right, I'm gone for real now, but I'm listening to this back.
That's one way to keep it here.
Check yourself.
I mean, he said he tried as hard as he could, but what was he doing at 2,800?
Yeah.
He messaged me that in the night. So it was 1 a.m. or something. I was walking back from a social back to my hotel room, and this is the night before. I think the timer ticked over at something in the ballpark of 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. my time. So I was coming back at 1 a.m. He was like, "Man, what is your ELO at?" I was like, 2215. And he was like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, what's yours at? Like, are we good? Because I was very much coming at this from the perspective of like, Caleb's ELO will probably still be around where it is. We should be fine. And he was like, I'm at 2800. I went, ooh, we might be in some danger.
But insert meme of like Ralph from The Simpsons, like, haha, I'm in danger.
yeah. So, whoopsies. Okay. I will say, obviously, part of it is just that I spent too much time on Show 6 and not enough time on GBL. On purpose, of course. But I will say part of that is probably just a lack of Open Great League being in GBL. So it's like, now like in Open Great League week, I was playing my things, but yeah, alas.
That's funny because I was like venting my frustrations to Tristen about how much I hated Open Great League.
Okay, yeah, I said that to Caleb. I was like, you know what? Maybe we could be fine because I know Kaz isn't a fan of the Open Leagues, so maybe she's tanking. Maybe we're good.
Well, it hit a point where I was like, I went on a hot streak and I ended with a 5-0. My last set, so I said before, I was running Pangoro, Driftblim, and Ariados. And at 4-0, I queue into a Wigglytuff lead. And I'm like, oh, crap. Well, I'm not getting a 5-0 here. But I think my opponent managed to... I think I played it really well, and my opponent also misplayed a little bit. So I managed to take down the Wigglytuff team somehow. And then at that point, I was like, Kaz, where are you at? Doing the math. And I was like, I think we're good. We just need to not tank. So we should probably just stop playing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I will say I was higher before the Go Battle weekend. I was at 2680 something. And then I did fall quite a bit and got a little annoyed at myself. So I tried to play less, and I think that worked out to my advantage. And I swapped between two different teams. I started out with or three actually, technically, because I started out with Marowak, Ariados, and Dugong, which worked really well for a time, but then it just stopped. It just stopped working. Everybody hated that. And I waffled around for a little while, and then I got a team suggestion that came through another server from an Atlanta local of Talonflame, Chestnut, which you guys know I love, and Alolan Raticate.
Hey, I just want a regional.
It's true, and it's a good Pokemon because if you're not against something even against a Azumarill, if you can shield the play roughs, you can actually with return because it's a purified one. You can do pretty well.
I was going to ask if you were running return or Hyper Beam or Hyper Fang.
No.
All of those are
I was running return. Yeah. Because I had made this for some Battle Frontier
Serene probably
thing from last cycle. So I had one around, and I was like, sure, why not? So switching between those two teams did pretty well. Good. And then I did swap to that Clodsire lead, Tristen, when you were like, well, if you're seeing Azumarill leads all the time, then Clodsire would be, Sludge Bomb Clodsire would be good. I was like, all right, I'll just use the Marowak team and use Clodsire instead. And that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, because you were complaining, you're like, it's always Azumarill leads or Dunsparce leads, and every time I switch, and I'm like, well, just use something that beats both.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Sludge Bomb Clodsire would still beat the Dunsparce, even though that matchup is really weird.
It's pretty close for sure. But yeah, Clodsire is just slightly favored there.
Yeah,
because it's just a little bulkier and it resists the rollouts. But
there's something weird that Dunsparce can do with the energy management though, because there were some times that people were able to flip that matchup on me, and I was like, how? But they got it. They would do extra rollouts every other turn or something like that. So I figured it was a weird math.
They're probably just they're just optimizing their timing probably.
Yeah.
Right, because if they're throwing one after you every time, they're just trying to optimize their move timing. Because it might sometimes come down to because if they're letting you get an extra poison sting through, then maybe you're beating them to a move or something, and if that sort of a deal. But
that's probably true. So, Steve, what else were you using with Wailmer?
So again, this is just like Zweilous' team, essentially. like we were sitting down, we were sort of at this big long table, and we sat down. We were across from each other, and so he opened up GBL. Straight away, I put Wailmer in, and he was like, what do I pair with Wailmer? And he was running Shadow Wailmer. I was running regular, and he put Shadow Dragonite in the back, and it's like, okay, hold that thought. And then he was like, need something for Wigglytuff. Let's put in Ariados. So we put Ariados in the lead. Turns out, we find out in battle number 1 that his Dragonite, in fact, had Hurricane instead of Superpower.
Classic.
But it was kind of cooking. It was kind of like all of a sudden you had something to throw against Azu. You had something to throw against Toxapex. You had something for all of these coverage mons that don't expect a Hurricane either. And so quite often they're actually letting it go through. So, Ariados, Wailmer, Dragonite. He climbed like 100 ELO like straight away. Like he went 5-0, 6-0. I think he went 7-0 before dropping a battle. And then, I climbed about, I don't know. Well, I was at 2040, I guess, last week. So 22:15.
You should have positioned this differently. You should have been like, so guys, I was GBLing with Wailmer, and I climbed 200 points.
Yeah, it's all about the framing,
the delivery. Because then you got Caleb sweating even more. He's like, "Oh my god, this guy GBL'd with Wailmer. He lost like 200 more ELO. What are we gonna do?"
Yeah, look, if I hadn't sort of told him what my final ELO was, that is absolutely the route we would have gone. But yeah,
it would have worked on us though, because we would have been like, "Oh he's using Wailmer," and then be like, "Oh no."
Okay, you know what? Let's do the episode again. Let's go to the top. All right. Welcome in, everyone, to episode 176 of the DynaCatz podcast. I am your host, PvP Steve, joined by Twastell, HurricaneKaz. Caleb's not here with us this week, but, that's fine. So
he left us from in shame from losing the bet.
It's true. He's been banished.
Okay, for the first segment of the brand new podcast, let's start with something a bit different. Let's start with Professor Tristen, which I think Caleb originally said we were going to do 20 minutes ago. But hey, we're doing it now.
Hey, sometimes we ramble. All right. What are you guys feeling, Lapras or Gastrodon?
Let's do Lapras.
Don't tell me you're trying to buff Gastrodon.
We've seen enough Gastrodon. Give me the Lapras.
Yeah.
Lapras is a pretty simple one, but one that I think would be really fun to see is Psywave Lapras.
Whoa. It learns Psywave?
It does learn Psywave.
That would be wild.
There's a lot of Gen 1 Mons in particular that learn Psywave. And I think Lapras is really interesting because it's kind of been... It used to be, especially in, some of the Sylph metas, but also, even early Open Great League, Lapras was pretty solid, and then it kind of got pushed out by some of the other water ices that just did some of the other things better. Whaleren had his time in the spotlight, and then Dugong. And Lapras hasn't really been super relevant for a while. And Psywave just makes it really interesting because it's obviously a very strong fast move in general, but it's not benefiting from stab like something like a Malamar is, so that tunes it down a little bit, and it just gives it a different matchup spread than Dugong, because it's going to be worse into Psychic and Dark types that are resisting the Psywave, but it's better in the water head-to-heads, so it can beat so you can run it with Surf and Ice Beam, and you still beat Dugong, I think, all the time with just Psywave and Surf spam. I think you beat Azumarill most of the time. You beat Feraligatr, I think, most of the time. And then your Ice Beam gives you, I think you still lose, but Ice Beam gives you play into Superior and Galarian Moltres and stuff like that. And it's just interesting because fighting is one of its main weaknesses, and so Psywave gives it a good way to hit back against fighters, especially if we're expecting Annihilate to come back after its Community Day. I think the Psywave on the Lapras could be interesting because they'll sort of both be hitting each other for super effective damage there.
Yeah, and it's also fairly bulky, which isn't something that you get a lot with some of the other ice types. So, I mean, that and Dugong, Dugong already has like a big place in the meta. So adding like another bulky water ice to that would be really interesting.
And they just have like a little bit of different matchup spreads. Like Dugong generally loses to like Stone Edge Clodsire, but like Psywave Surf Lapras will beat the Clodsire, I think most or all of the time. It's also like, I don't remember. I know it beats like Diggersby, and I think it's decent into Toxapex, but obviously a little awkward, like shields down because your charge moves are resisted. But like, it's got a lot of play, either sort of positive or neutral, into some of the most popular cores right now. And I think, again,
for the Toxapex matchup, you could have Skull Bash.
Right, and that's the thing too, is like you can also flex the Skull Bash if you don't want that Ice Beam coverage. It just depends on sort of what you're going for there. But I just think it'd be interesting and play it differently than Dugong while being a water ice as well. And again, I think it would sort of shift the meta because it would make like Psychic and Dark types that can resist that Psywave be a little more popular. Maybe you see like a little more Sableye. I mean, I guess we do have some Dark types popular right now in like Drapion and Galarian Moltres, but like, again, you might, and Malamar, but like you might shift that a little further even. So I think it could just, again, fill a similar role, but different matchups and just kind of mix things up a little bit.
Wait, is this just coming up with things that can bring Sableye back into the meta? Is that all you're attempting to do here?
Yes.
I don't know. The specific shout out seems a bit on the nose, but like, to be honest, when you said Psywave Lapras, my instant reaction was like, no. Why would you give such a like strong, spammy, one turn, fast move to a Pokemon as bulky as Lapras? But like I did the quick PV poke sims, and like, yeah, it's actually not like that crazy. Like, you really, obviously you get all of the big matchups into a lot of those top meta picks, like you said, but like, it's not like it doesn't have checks. I think it's a very strong Pokemon.
Oh, it's certainly strong for sure, but again,
like you're talking about top of the meta, so not number one, but you're talking, it's going to be in some top 12 graphics.
Oh, for sure. But again, like you said, with strong matchups into a lot of the current meta, that just helps. That ends up shifting things a little bit, right? It's like because now, it covers some of those popular things, so now you have to shift sort of what you're team building a little bit, which I think could be good. And the nice thing too is like, if I think it'd be a good for it to have its spotlight for a period of time, and then if it gets to be a little bit too much or is good for too long, like you can always slow down Surf a little more. There is a sort of easy way out if eventually once people have kind of gotten tired of it potentially, right? I think that's the important thing, is to make sure there's sort of an exit strategy for Pokemon, because like most things are going to run their course at some point and people are going to get tired of them. So having a way out as well, I think is healthy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did have like not a bet per se, but we made our predictions earlier about, when people are going to be bored of this meta, and we're all pretty wrong on that front.
Yeah. Because this meta has like not settled, I think. Like there's just so much weird stuff I see all the time in GBL. And I mean, we look at Gdańsk regionals that just happened and some of the weird things that people have on their team.
Hey, the date I said hasn't come yet, and I'm the only one left. I don't expect to be right.
No.
I think... But
actually, Tristen, there's almost like no chance that you're right, because so all of our other dates have passed. Tristen said that people are going to be bored of it by the 11th of November. It's like Annihilate is like literally going to be released like sort of around that exact time. So it's kind of like, the meta will literally insta shift as soon as it sort of comes to that date.
True.
So we're all pretty wrong on that front. And I know that Caleb sort of commented on last week, but I do just want to say very like explicitly that we were all very what word am I looking for? Perhaps pessimistic.
Yeah.
On what the meta was going to look like going into this season, but like mad props to Niantic.
I was pessimistic about the people's response. I was not pessimistic about the Pokemon. I thought that it was going to be really fun, but I thought that people themselves would start being a little bit, rude sooner about it.
I was pessimistic Kaz, I was with you. About the Pokemon themselves, just because, like, I think a lot of the changes were interesting and healthy. But with that many changes, it's just so hard to know how things are going to end up. And like, you don't like, we ended up with a pretty like interesting, fairly neutral dynamic meta, but like it's just so hard to foresee what direction the meta is going to go. And we could have ended up with, some hard RPS triangles, back to like maybe our Noctowl, Trevenant, Lantern days or something along those lines. Like, it's just so hard to know for sure. Man.
Yeah. The good old days.
Well, like the point is like, that whether it was a happy accident or whether Niantic was able to see, what was going to happen, at least in those first, couple weeks, it's worked out really well. So mad shout out on that front. But yeah, I was definitely with you, Kaz. I think we're on team. It's probably, it's going to be fun, but it's going to be a little odd. I think the general consensus on that one. But anyway, speaking of changing matters, shifting sands, I suppose we can move on to talk about the big Gdańsk.
Yeah, so tell us all about it
this weekend. So yeah, so obviously, I was here. I competed. I didn't do as well as I intended to, unfortunately. Made a bit of a goof that knocked me out of losers bracket. But not only that, okay, here's my tiny little complaint, and Tristan's already heard this in text form. But so I won my winners round 1. So I go to winners round 2. I lose to a guy that he came top 8 in Stuttgart 2 regionals ago. I was like, all right, fair enough. Go down to losers bracket, but I don't go down to losers bracket round 2. I go back to losers round 1. Despite winning a round in winners 1, I go back to the beginning. And so it's and I end up losing, making such a bad goof. I had a guaranteed win and I threw it all away. But then, on Dracoviz, I'm in equal last, even though I have a win in winners bracket. So, boo.
Yeah.
But is what it is. But honestly, and
I
guess this is
honestly didn't really realize that could happen. I didn't know until you mentioned
that
this.
doesn't seem to shake. That doesn't seem to shake out to what I've previously seen.
Yeah, you would think that. But essentially, it's shenanigans with because a bunch of people got buys into round 2, they have to bring people back into losers round 1 to sort of fill the space well enough. It's kind of just what happens when you have a number that's too far away from either the perfect 64 or the perfect number. 128.
Okay, it was just sort of an unfortunate number, and you just ended up in an awkward pairing, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. So, so essentially I came last place. Was the end up result, but and which, by the way, I'm now a massive soldier for this should be Swiss when we can. I was on board beforehand, but now I'm a hardcore this needs to be Swiss because that was uncool. But
let's revisit that after you compete in 2 more tournaments, and we'll see how we're feeling.
Yeah. After I win Buenos Aires, I'll be no, this is fine. But
wait, so how are our chances for that UIC Travel Award looking, Steve?
Well, so essentially, if I get points at both of the next 2 tournaments that I play in Buenos Aires and LAIC, it's still pretty much guaranteed. I'm not banking on it so much.
How many Aussies and Kiwis are competing at LAIC?
I think there's going to be 4 battlers from Oceania. Well, okay, so here's the thing. I think that it's going to be 4 battlers coming from the Oceanic region, including myself. And then there's one guy who's currently at the top of the Oceanic leaderboard, who is his main residence is in Australia, but he's been like racking up hundreds of points in the US. So it's kind of like he's with I think he's going to school there or something like that. So I think he's planning on coming to LAIC as well. But he's like, he's so locked in the travel award, it's not funny because he's, I think he got points at Baltimore, or maybe it was Louisville actually. One of those North American thingos. So look, we'll see. I wouldn't. Wait, but it's possible.
Doable.
Wait, so you're saying it's him and then you and 3 other people that are all on the Oceania leaderboard that are going to LAIC?
Yeah, that's right. So,
okay. So like, because you were saying if you got points at Buenos Aires and at LAIC, you'd be almost a lock for the travel award, but maybe not necessarily. If those 4 other people all get points at LAIC as well, it could be tough.
If they all get points, then So like, as I said, it's sort of almost, and it does depend, how like where people do land in those amount of points. But anyway, we'll wait and see how it goes. But talking about Gdańsk proper, it was. I guess the next step in the constant shifting sands of the meta progression, the constant turbulence of the current meta. And we had a brand new Pokemon at number 1 on the usage chart for day 1, Ariados.
Is that why you brought the Skarmory?
It may have been a bit of a meta read. And look, I think Skarmory was a good meta read, quite frankly. I was talking with Jakobovich in the lead up to the event. We sort of got on a call to sort of build the team. It ended up being like identical to Colin and Paul Archer's team from the previous regional, except with Malamar swapped out for Skarmory. Because, obviously lots of Ariados. I think Skarmory's actually like a really good core breaker into the sort of basic meta, and especially the meta that was being used in Lille. And I sort of went in expecting it to not be very good into the top players in the tournament. So, the players that are going to be running Magnezone or Charger Bug. Like, I was sort of expecting those electrics to be around as the sort of top player core breakers.
Yeah.
And that is kind of how it played out, in that the top players did have those electrics and they weren't really around the sort of lower ranks on the tournament performance. So it was a good read into my 2 out of my 3 opponents' teams as well. But didn't quite work out, but it could have. You never know. But we had Ariados Azumarill coming out as number 1 and number 2. So
it's really funny to me when I look at the DracoViz site, like just the list of starting with number 1 Tauntaun Batuse, and he's got the Charjabug, right? Mm-hmm. And then literally as you scroll down, every other Pokemon in the lead is the Ariados.
Okay, we have not dodged the technical difficulties. Kale about to come back and save us, apparently. But we're jumping back in, talking about Gdańsk. And I think the sort of big takeaway from the tournament, or the big storyline, the big thing that has come out of Gdańsk, was the top 2 teams, the grand finals, where we had 12 unique Pokemon and a lot of Pokemon that are very spicy and not very widely seen across the rest. So Tauntaun Batuse was running the Charjabug, as Kaz said, the Clodsire, Shadow Gator, Purified Alolan Raticate after it came like top 12 in Lille, Superior Talonflame as his 6, and then Zweilous, who came second, was running the Ariados Azumarill core, the Shadow Driftbloom, Gastrodon, regular Magnezone, and Pengoro.
Yeah, and so like I was saying, I think it's interesting that they both sort of picked like a sort of strong meta core to anchor their teams, and then sort of filled it out with some spicier picks and core breakers and things that they sort of expected to do well against the meta. Tauntaun had that Shadow for Alligator Clodsire core that's been, just very solid, very strong throughout the entire season, with Zweilous running that Azumarill Ariados core that seems to have popped up more recently and is sort of taking the meta by storm. And then, Zweilous, not as much of a meta core, but Zweilous was also running that Pangoro Driftblim core, which is pretty solid as long as there's no Wigglytuff around. And, that core is a little harder to use in GBL at times because Wigglytuff's been popping up more. But in Show 6, it's such a challenging meta to run Wigglytuff in because there's a lot of teams even running double Poison and, maybe even a couple Steel types now. I feel like Zweilous sort of paired his team well together. He has a lot of things to protect that Pangoro. Like he has the Ariados and the Driftblim are both very good core partners, and then depending on what you're seeing, even Magnezone or Azumarill can protect it from some other threats as well. Yeah, I think Steve, you were noting like the usage of electric types sort of popping in, and you were sort of expecting those. Why again?
I think it's a really good counter meta read in the sense that if you're a top player, you don't want to get core broken, and so I think that people is somewhat expecting there to be Pokemon like Skarmory, for example, that are coming in. Azumarill still one of the biggest Pokemon as a water type. Feraligatr still one of the biggest Pokemon as a water type. So I just sort of feel like having a Pokemon like Charjabug, for example, just gives you really solid, not only coverage for, big meta threats like Azu and Gator, and like the grass types like Superior in Chargebug's example, but it also gives you defense against the potential core breakers that are going to enter into the tournament, like Skarmory, as an example. I mean, another Pokemon that sort of came in as a big core breaker, and a Pokemon that I was really looking at using, like it was actually in my original team draft, was Golisopod. Also, you get to counter that with Chargebug as well.
Right, yeah, and we've seen a couple people running here and there the Araquanid, same typing as Golisopod, same sort of a thing, and then the Electrics are also going to beat Toxapex pretty well, especially the Magnezone is just going to sort of shut down that Toxapex.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I guess they're also good into or at least decent into the Odd Galarian Moltres as well, and Dugong. So yeah, definitely a lot of play for both of them. The Charjabug, like you said, is nice into grasses like Superior, and also has the X Scissor for stuff like Malamar as well. Double effective X Scissor. So yeah, I can't remember what tournament it was, but I know a couple tournaments back I remember looking at the top meta and thinking that Charjabug looked pretty good into a lot of the top teams. I just wasn't sure if it would take off because ground types are also popular, and there was a period with some double grounds as well, but the meta seems to have shifted a little bit, such that there's some more room for that. Kaz, what were you going to say?
Well, at least with the Charjabug, you still have some coverage against the ground type, not coverage, but the X Scissor doesn't do nothing. So even though it's a bad matchup, at least you can do some chip. But I also remember that panic attack I had at 7:30 in the morning before Louisville, where I was like, oh my God, I'm so weak to electric. I cannot do this.
See, that's so different because I was like, hey, I'm weak to electric. I'll just dodge the electrics. With seeding, I was like, I'll only face one person that has electric, by the time I hit my sort of aim of loses round 4, I'll only see one team with electric. We're fine. But
we're good here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just scrolling down through the teams, I see there's a lot of spice actually because number 4 with
Dragapult.
Ouden, you got the Dragapult there.
Yeah.
What?
Which is kind of crazy.
And and Patoman does have that Golisopod that you were just mentioning.
Yeah, well, in 5th, or Steve was mentioning it, but yeah, in 5th, tied for 5th, I think. Yeah, Patoman with the Golisopod, tied for 5th, Welton with the Skarmory. So yeah, definitely some spice sneaking in here and there. And tied for 9th, Icelandic Lapras ran a Chestnut. That coming back. PvP David with a Pangoro and a Gastrodon. So yeah, definitely some spice popping up here and there. Even tied for 13th, Marcus Shiny ran a Gudra, which we haven't really seen much of this season. And then
honestly,
Snorlax as well with a Shadow Drifblim and a Registeel. You were going to say this meta has what, Kaz?
This meta has not solidified at all, and I just think back to previous seasons and how we kind of had by this time an idea of what sort of the top picks were, and certainly people would still bring spice, but you never really saw it I think get as high as some of this stuff is currently getting. And that's just amazing. Love this whole vibe that we're entering
I agree.
into.
It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see like which of this spice catches on and becomes either meta or anti-meta, and which of this spice is just players like Zweilous and Tauntaun being themselves, because they're often able to make things work that no one else can. So it'll just be interesting to see, because it could go either way. I remember last year at LAIC, Rar Jeff ran Chargebug, and no one had really run Chargebug up until then, and that's sort of what started the popularization of Chargebug. So, like, will Tauntaun succeeding with Chargebug sort of bring that back, or will people be like, oh, that's Tauntaun pulling off things that, maybe I don't feel like I can pull off as well. And same to be said with any of these other spice picks. So it'll just be interesting to see which of them might catch on and which ones might not.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, also, we were all just talking about some of these picks that we were all using pretty successfully in GBL even. So some of this stuff, I do think, like, I mean, yes, it's spicy to a certain degree, but I mean, I think that this just goes to show how, it can be successful as long as you take the time to actually practice with it and understand your team. Steve made a lot of good points about how he was building his team, not just reading the meta, but also like what the anti-meta is encountering for that as well. Like, that's a whole 5-head chess read that sometimes I think people don't consider.
Yeah, and I think some of these spice picks too, like some of them you're maybe able to just slot in as a 6th pick on your team, but other of them might need some, off meta, partners to support them better, just because they have a slightly different matchup spread. So yeah, but I think the other thing too, sort of going off what you were saying before, Kaz, is I feel like we're at a point right now where there's a lot of Pokemon on a somewhat similar power level, which is why we're seeing the meta hasn't settled and why we're seeing more options for spice. Because, something like a Registeel, it's not a bad Pokemon. It's still very strong and similar power level to a lot of the rest of the meta. It just struggles against what a lot of people are running. But we've seen some people, like Arrow got second with it. Anacore made a top cut run. We saw, a Registeel get like 13th here as well. It's still on a similar power level. So, some people are going to be able to make it work. And I feel like that can be said for a lot of these things that we're considering spicy. They're, again, similar power level or just below. But if you're able to sort of see what the matchups are and build a team around it, you can certainly do well with a variety of things.
Can you also imagine, like, if this season, like, because this season gave sort of that power level to a lot of new Pokemon that we hadn't really seen get a lot of use before. Like Gastrodon, like Marowak, these mud slappers. Can you imagine, like, if we had not gotten all of those nerfs at the same time, like how broad of a picture we'd be looking at? I mean, it's already pretty broad right now, but like, oh my gosh.
I mean, to be honest, I think that things would look not that crazy different if we didn't get nerfs at the same time. If we just got buffs, like, say Mudslap just got buffed, I don't think we'd be seeing that big of a difference. I think we'd be seeing the same level of, fighter, flyer, neutral Lickitung sort of shenanigans. And because Lickitung still got that coverage for the Mudslappers, old Lickitung, that is, like Metacham still has coverage for the Mudslappers, and Annihilape still has coverage for the Mudslappers, even though, you can probably two-shield Mudslap through. So I feel like the nerfs
saw a lot of Metacham, like, in GBL this weekend, and I was like, what? Why? And Poliwrath, too. And I was like, they still be trying.
Poliwrath, I think, is still, it's not nearly as good, but it's still usable and anti-meta at times. Just with its typing and coverage. I feel like I fall in between the two of you. I do think that some of the nerfs were needed to bring out this diversity, but I do think that some of those nerfs, like some of those Pokemon, could have still like been viable while allowing some of this diversity as well. I definitely think there's a fine line there, and like it just depends on which Pokemon and stuff. You know, I think definitely like the Scar. I think definitely like looking at the meta now, like Steve's saying how Skarmory is a good core breaker, and like I think that shows that the Skarmory nerfs are definitely needed, because I think without them, Skarmory would have been still a core breaker, but much stronger neutrally. So it might have been more meta centric. But again, you sort of have to look at each change of one by one, and I think some of them were needed, and some of them maybe not, but here we are.
Overall, I think we're in a really good place, and each tournament kind of brings a new, exciting, like meta for us to analyze, which is something I haven't really felt very strongly in previous seasons. So I mean, actual kudos, Niantic. Good job.
Yeah, it's a really good meta. Although I will say, I'm a little bit like, I would have much preferred a bit more of a consistent meta for me to, you know, really figure out over this 3-week period than a completely different meta every single tournament and having to make a read every single week.
That's fair. That's fair.
So do we have a team for the weekend ready yet, Steve? Or are we still figuring that out?
I haven't got a team yet, to be honest. In the back of my head, I was still hoping that we would get Morpeko unbanned. I really wanted to run Morpeko, but you know, we're about to, we have passed the Tuesday mark. So I guess Morpeko is not getting unbanned this week at the very least. So we'll wait and see at that front. But yeah, I've got some building to do, and unfortunately, I do think you're not gonna
run it back. Is that for sure?
Look, it's not for sure. I just think that compared to literally every meta we've ever had in Pokemon Go PvP before now, I think that team building is more important than ever. And I think that the sort of getting that meta read is sort of really important. And so I'm sort of still absorbing what the Gdańsk meta was. And yeah, as you sort of mentioned before, like which of these Pokemon are actually going to stick around? Like, are more people going to be running Dragapult going into the Buenos Aires, you know, special championship?
Well, we saw
it's very strong.
The last LATAM regionals or special event that we had.
Special championships. They changed it.
So we did see kind of the transition to Diggers beating Toxapex, like over Clodsire and Feraligatr. So it'll be interesting to see if Buenos Aires shows us something new even now.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, you also have the added challenge of analyzing a predicted Latin American meta as opposed to a European meta.
Good luck with that.
Like, right, just because the European meta is shifting in one way, like the Latin American meta is maybe, I mean, I don't know, but they might be sticking to more Diggersby Toxapex and not shifting as much to Ariados or Charjabug or Skarmory or whatever else it may be. So
yeah, we haven't seen them for a little while. The meta's changed 4 times since we've had a Latin American regional.
Yeah,
so.
But yeah, because each regional each region also does things a little bit differently at times too. So that also is interesting in terms of trying to follow the meta development. And is what's going to make LAIC even more interesting, because you're going to be taking this Latin America meta that has sort of happened throughout a series of events, plus Buenos Aires, and all these Latin America trainers, but then you're going to be adding in some Aussies and Kiwis and Europeans and North Americans to the mix too. And everyone will sort of have a little bit of their own take on it, and we'll see what happens in a couple of weeks.
Plus a Primeape and Annihilape introduction.
Yeah,
true, exactly.
I don't envy the teamwork, like the team building that you are going to have to do.
Yeah, I would have preferred, you know, maybe we do a couple tournaments at the start of the season. But hey, it is what it is. We'll figure it out. We'll see how we go. And fingers crossed we do a little bit better in the next one than this last one. But
we're rooting for you.
We'll do our best. I just have to make less mistakes. Just win. Simple.
Just make less mistakes.
That's true.
And end up in a better part of the bracket.
Don't.
Actually, I was in a if we don't, go winners round 2 to losers round 1, I'll be a happy guy. Just not last place, thanks. But so that's the championship series updates. Is there grassroots news? Is there shenanigans afoot?
Not really.
I see a question mark in the document. I don't know what that means, but
I think we skipped it. Was there any?
Right,
what was the actually? Before we move on, though, Steve, what was your experience battling in your first Australian regional? Like, how'd it go? How'd you like it? What are the differences? That sort of.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely are differences. I mean, one thing is like, everyone was talking about like, oh, we haven't got our email for call times yet, and I was like, what do you mean call times? This isn't, in Australia we just rock up at the start time. Everyone pretty much goes. We hop between Group A, Group B, Group A, Group B sort of thing. But yeah, it was like half the people don't come to the afternoon, which is wild. And to be honest, I actually really didn't like how they ran the bracket in this particular regional, because essentially they sort of did like Group A winners 1, Group A winners 2, and then I think they I think then they did they might have done 3 in a row, sort of shenanigans, where they went winners, winners, losers, and then winners, winners, losers, and so you sort of just like played very back to back. Sort of regardless of whether you were winning or losing, because they were winners round 2 players going back to losers round 1, you needed to like run winners bracket back to back so that you could refill the losers bracket, so you could then run the losers bracket. And so it was all a little bunched up, in my opinion. I would have liked a bit more back and forth between the brackets. I mean, maybe they run it that way so that like, you get an hour break between needing to battle or something, but I mean, I don't know if this is normal. I don't know if everyone like is on this side of the equator is used to this sort of thing. I don't know.
I will, but I think some of that too is going to be because of like stream things as well. And some of that is probably also based on the number of participants in the tournament. I think that also affects the bracket a little bit. I will say that the call times are more of a European thing.
Right.
The only time that I got a call time in tournaments was NAIC and Worlds. I haven't seen that at any regionals I've been to in North America. So it seems like it might be more of a European plus IC and above sort of a thing potentially. But yeah, everything
that would be my guess too.
Everything does get run a little differently. Like the at least my experience, I haven't been to any NA regionals this season, but my experience from the past season is sort of a little bit different than what you said. But there definitely are times where you do end up playing a lot of battles back to back to back, just depending on where you are in the bracket and where you are in the schedule and stuff like that.
Yeah, Louisville didn't, like when I went to that, it did not have call times or anything. They did have it split into basically, these groups are going to start in the morning and then these groups are going to start in the afternoon. But they didn't tell us that until we got there.
Yeah. I mean, part of that, and maybe this is what happens in Australia, is the bracket keeps changing until 9:30 in the morning, right? So to be able to send out those call time shenanigans, you do need to lock the bracket in early. And so that was the thing, like also going to this tournament, is I knew who my round 1 opponent was in advance, like, 12 hours in advance. And because of buys, I also knew if I won round 1, I knew who my round 2 opponent was going to be. And so I could sort of pre-scope out, like, not, what they're going to run, because there's no info on that sort of thing. But, are they a good battler? Like, I could find out, like, oh, this guy, like, our first opponent got top 16 at a European regional, and my second opponent, if I win round 1, is like, oh, he was top 8 2 regionals ago. It's like, okay, yikes. But there was also some shenanigans from that was actually pretty poor, in that I'm not going to name any names, and I don't know if it's even like necessarily a bad thing. Like, I don't know where it lands. It's a bit of a moral gray area, but I know that one battler got matched up with someone in round 1, and they knew the team that they were running, and so they sort of built their team to counter their opponent's team, and like, change their registered team, which is kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I like the ability of being able to do that when it feels
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that feels a little questionable, but at the same time, like, the person could still be changing their team last minute. You never know. And also, like, I guess, like, you're setting yourself up for a successful round one potentially, but that could come back to bite you in literally the rest of the tournament. Like, so I guess
it could, but
it still seems,
when you only need to go like Tonton had to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Tonton had to win 7 rounds to win the entire tournament, and so if you can sort of lock in 1 out of 7, it's not too bad.
That seems, it definitely seems questionable and weird to me, and I don't love that. But I'm just saying it's not like 100% surefire thing, because again, they could change their team, and or whatever you lock in to counter them could just suck against your next opponents. So
yeah. I just would prefer to not have that be a possibility.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you.
At the very least.
Yeah,
I agree with you for sure.
My only other comment on the big difference between Europe and playing in Australia is, again, a bit of a knock on Europe, but it's just or maybe it's not a knock, but it is the fractured nature of like the social gatherings and social groups. In that in Australia, it's all very, there's one group, like everyone knows everyone, everyone's sort of hanging out, chatting to each other. Everyone, like, once day one is done, we all go to the same place to, eat, drink, whatever else. Like, it's one collective.
You guys don't have 100 plus like, people.
Yeah.
Oh, like Sydney Regional, we had 60, right? So it's sort of like, we had 96 at Gdańsk. It's not that much bigger, 96 versus 60, if you really think about it.
That's fair.
No, it's 96. So like it's kind of a, you can sort of draw some similarities between that group size. But the 60 people at Sydney, we went out to dinner afterwards. Whereas like, Gdańsk is just, everyone sort of went their own way a little bit, which is kind of like a little bit disappointing in my view, as someone who is, like, in my opinion, lived the good life of everyone sort of being a bit more congruent. Was there not like a
social? Because I know a lot of events.
Like... There was a social on the Saturday, which the way that I think Amanda sort of explained it to me was that there tends to be, everyone sort of is in their own little pocket, and then they all come together for the social, and then they sort of go back to their pocket outside of that. And so, like, there were a lot of people that I know were at Gdańsk that I didn't really interact with because they weren't at the, dinners and whatnot that I went to. Mm-hmm. And that, I don't know, it feels like a little bit of a shame, in my opinion. But part of it's the countries as well.
Yeah, I would say that that's my experience, like, going to the NA regionals, too. Because, I mean, like, Louisville had 160-something people, right? And so you literally can't all go to the same place. So it kind of just depends. It kind of just depends on, like, who you are around, like at a certain time, and
the US seems to be less good with socials in general too. I know at the European ones, like Adelion plans socials for a lot of them, and usually there's someone else planning at other ones, versus like the US ones, it's like some of the West Coast ones were lucky, and RC Cola will plan a social. But the non-West Coast ones, or ones that RC Cola isn't at, there doesn't always tend to be a social. So like the US is definitely even worse in that regards, I'll say.
Yeah.
But yeah, props to Adelion organizing those European ones, and RC Cola organizing some of the West Coast ones. But like even the West Coast ones that RC Cola organizes, like those don't even end up always being everyone. Like it might be there's 100 people at the regional, and there's like 40 people that come to the social, and other people do their own thing, and or it just can be hard, especially in the US, to find some sort of a venue that can accommodate that many people is certainly the problem too.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just one other thing that I don't think people really think about too much. That's just like, you could be living a better life here. But that's pretty much my read. We'll see. I mean, I guess in that sense, my opinion is Australia top, then Europe, then North America, and none of us have experience with Latin America, but I'll find out next week. So we'll see.
I look forward to the report.
Yeah. All right, so should we get to a couple of YouTube comments real quick and then wrap it up?
Yeah.
Sounds like a game plan. So I haven't pulled it up yet, but I do know that one. I mean, we can wait to pull it up.
No, I have it pulled up right now. And the first comment is from one PvP Steve. Shout out to Kaz for not only picking up the episode number fingers for this episode, but also keeping that DynaCatz hype alive. You're welcome.
I will say on the original recording, I did the numbers as a pseudo Steve.
Oh, really?
And then we lost the recording, and then Kaz did it the second time around. So
yeah.
Wow.
Because Caleb almost didn't remember what number it was, and then you were like, "Well, Kaz knows because she always does the artwork."
Yeah.
And I was like, gotta channel my inner Steve, and I was like, 1, 7.
I just assumed that Kaz picked it up solo, but wow.
No, I was inspired by the two of you.
Kaz did pick the DynaCatz hype up on her.
Yeah.
That was all me.
Right,
and then
it's much appreciated.
And then Board Stiff says, Poland PvP Steve be like, Gdańsk battlers.
Yeah, now that's so when we recorded G'day. Oh man, I don't even do the long G'day. I just realized I haven't done that in ages. But when I was recording the G'day Battlers podcast with Debbie, that sort of she suggested some sort of title, and I was like, oh, Gdańsk Battlers. That's the next episode title. Lock it in. Yeah.
I hear you say it though.
Gdańsk Battlers. I mean. Come on, that's a heck of an intro.
And then we have kind of a 3-part comment from Artemis Dragon. So I'll kind of read each section. Hey, Battlecats, 3 things here. Kaz, in addition to Max Out Monday, how does Fast Catch Friday sound for a gimmick? Everything has 100% catch rate. You know what? I love it.
Do those daily incense on Friday.
Yeah, exactly. Because I did my daily incense today, and half the things just ran from me. I'm like, what? Why are you so annoying?
Yeah.
So I love it. ++. I'm with you on that. At the 27 minutes and 50 seconds timestamp, why did Niantic kill their biggest revenue source, you ask? A part of me believes it's about controlling the narrative. Niantic wants and needs to have control over everything we do. Before the nerf, you could come and go as you please, completely unchecked. Now we're all forced to keep in line like sheeple. They're collecting more location data with people driving and walking around, though. Maybe that matters more to them than our happiness. Wow, wow.
I don't know. I'm a pretty skeptical guy, but I feel like it is a little bit more surface level. I think that might be given a little bit too much evil mastermind credit.
I also feel like I feel like a lot of people get caught up on this location data thing too, and I don't know if that's as deliberate of a thing from Niantic as people make it out to be as well.
I certainly think that helps. That kind of helps in their decision making sometimes, but I don't think it's I don't think they're the evil masterminds or anything. I don't think they're doing anything to deliberately make things more difficult. I do think that they have a different vision for the way they want the game to be played instead of how people actually play. And there's never really going to be a perfect balance between those two. You know, they have their ideal that they want to stick to. And that's why they keep doing more and more of these things that do encourage us to go out, gather and walk around, that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't think they're being very evil about it. I just think that we're on just 2 separate pathways right now, and they're kind of adjacent, but not together.
Yeah.
All right. What do we have next?
The last part of Artemis, part 3 of Artemis Dragon's comment is shadow raids. I think the reason that they keep re-rolling the same lame 5-star shadow raids is because they don't want to bring out the hype ones until they've made the system worth the effort. While we wait for them to improve things, my suggestion for this would be to add a scheduled hour where every gym at a park will feature them on a Saturday and Sunday. That way mods can let everyone know where to be that day on Campfire.
That's kind of smart. It could be a weekend raid hour basically for the shadow raids. I think that's actually a smart idea. And it wouldn't even have to be a gym. I think you could just make it all the gyms. Make it just a raid hour, but on the weekends and for the shadow raid boss. I don't know, like every Saturday and Sunday at like 1 p.m. or noon or 6 p.m. or something, you could just have a shadow raid hour. I think that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, and for the people that want to like grind out more of that candy and have to organize to do it, that would make it way easier to do so. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea as well. And then he adds, P.S. the ferret suggestion is baller, Tristen.
Let's go!
So yeah, I think, well, I mean, actually we did see a lot of Professor Tristen come into play in this most recent update. So what will we see them take from you for next season?
Fingers crossed. They won't take as much because those segments kept getting cut out.
That's so true. But those are all the YouTube comments from our last episode. So thank you everybody for listening, and feel free to comment on your costume suggestions for the next one.
Or don't. It's maybe. I think it would be really cool to dress up as like Steve. Like, hey, wear a t-shirt and like some cargo shorts.
I'm liking the Jesse and James idea I had, or maybe we could do like what is it, Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny.
Yes. Once again, I can loan you my Nurse Joy costume from many years ago. Just
hey, I'll take
it. Just a quick mail.
Where's it? Is it going to get to Brazil quicker, or do we wait till back in Australia?
We're going to get it all to Caleb and have him bring it to Brazil. I think that's the plan.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think next week we'll be recording with Argentinian Steve.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think that it'll be Brazilian Steve. Because I think I pretty much fly straight out of Argentina after the tournament. So
important distinction.
South American Steve.
Yeah, South American Steve. I'll be ready. But
I hope you have some. I hope you have some tasty, South American meats, steaks, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
all the good eats.
Steve.
And of course,
something other.
Nugget?
Just pretend it's a chicken nugget.
Man, you sound like my mom when I was 5.
Now you're at 25 and some things never changed.
Oh my gosh.
And something's never worked, let me tell you that.
Well, we look forward to hearing about your experience in being South American Steve as well. And I think that's going to do it for us this time. We will catch you guys next week.
Yeah.
And good luck to Steve in Buenos Aires this weekend.
Yeah,
good luck in Buenos Aires. We look forward to seeing the new meta.
Yeah, we'll find out. By the way, does anyone have scissors?
Man's still going to be wearing that in LAIC.
If I can't get scissors, I will be. But
he's going to stack all his tournament bracelets on top of each other.
Well, good luck to you on multiple fronts then, Steve.
Yeah, I'll need it. But all right.
We'll catch you guys later.